I am Officer Loangus. Stops being audio and video recorded. I think you know why I stopped you. You ran the red light.
What actually happened was I was stuck in the middle of the intersection.
Yeah,
so
I was behind you the whole time. Yeah. So technically you're not supposed to enter the intersection at all for that reason, because if the light turns red, then you're stuck in the intersection, and then you run the red light. So that's the reason I stopped you. Do you have your license on you?
Yep. Let me just get this for you out.
You what?
I'm just going to get this out for you.
Okay.
Would you explain that to me a little bit further? So in Pennsylvania, when you're stuck in the intersection, you have to make the left. So what would the appropriate thing for me to have done?
You're not supposed to block an intersection like that in Washington, so just by you blocking the intersection, that's technically a ticketable violation, and then you're running a red light, so it's another ticketable offense. So you're not supposed to proceed into the intersection until you can go, because a lot of people do what you just did, right? Is like you're sitting in the intersection waiting, and then turns, then you're blocking, so.
Yeah, there was a little bit of confusion with speeding, because someone had stopped. I wasn't sure what they were doing, and then they put on their light to turn. Mm-hmm. So I thought that maybe they were letting me go through. Oh. Did you see that?
No. Mm-mm.
Yeah, like right before I made the turn, there was someone who made a right. They didn't have their signal on, so I wasn't sure if they were just waiting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I would just advise just don't enter the intersection until you can go, so you don't get stuck. Let's see.
But in that situation, the best thing to do then would be back up. And not.
I don't know if there's a best thing to do in that situation, because you're either going to back up into somebody, or you're going to run a red light.
What if I told you that one of the most closely watched criminal cases in modern American history began not with flashing lights, not with a dramatic confrontation, but with a 911 call so confused, so terrifyingly ordinary, that even the dispatcher could not fully understand what was being reported? What if I told you that inside that house, while the caller was still searching for the right words, two young women had been sitting frozen in silence for nearly 8 full hours? Too frightened to move, suspended between what they had seen and what they desperately hoped was not true. And what if I told you that the man responsible had driven past that house at least 23 times before that night, quietly, patiently, without anyone knowing his name? This is the story of 4 lives stolen in a single night, of a town that woke up to something it could not explain, of an investigation that pushed forensic science to its limits, and of a man who, even after pleading guilty to 4 murders, chose to say absolutely nothing to the families sitting just feet away from him. This is Dark Trail Files, and this is the full story of Bryan Kohberger and the night that refused to let go. Before we go any further, if you're someone who believes these stories deserve to be told with care, with accuracy, and with full respect for the people at their center, then this channel was built for you. Every case we cover on Dark Trail Files is researched deeply, presented completely, and handled with the weight it deserves. No shortcuts, no sensationalism, just the whole story told the right way. So hit subscribe right now. Turn on your notifications, because once you see how we cover cases here, you won't want to miss a single one. Welcome to Dark Trail Files. Now let's begin. Before the headlines, before the investigation, before everything that would eventually consume the attention of a nation, there was November 12th, 2022, a regular Saturday, and 4 people living it the way young people in college towns live Saturdays. Fully, freely, without any knowledge that it was the last one they would ever have. Kaylee Goncalves was 21 years old, a senior at the University of Idaho studying general studies, with a marketing job already lined up in Austin, Texas. She was supposed to graduate in December. She was ready for her next chapter. She had a dog she loved and a best friend she had known since the 6th grade. That best friend was Madison Mogan, also 21, also a senior, studying marketing, and also supposed to have her whole life in front of her. The two of them had grown up in the same town, attended the same university, and ended up sharing a home together at 1122 King Road, a 3-story off-campus rental in Moscow, Idaho. People who knew them said they were inseparable in the truest sense of the word. Not as a cliche, but as a fact. That Saturday night, Kaylee and Madison went out to a local bar called the Corner Club. Surveillance footage captured them walking through downtown Moscow that night, laughing and talking. It is the kind of footage that becomes devastating only in retrospect. On the floor below them in the house lived Xana Kernadal, 20 years old, and her boyfriend Ethan Chapin, also 20. Ethan was a freshman, 6'4", with the kind of easy, good-natured presence his family described as someone who rarely took anything too seriously in the most joyful way imaginable. He had a twin brother and a twin sister. Xana's older sister Jasmine would later describe her simply as kind, funny, and everyone's best friend. That evening, Xana and Ethan had attended a party at his fraternity before heading back to King Road. Their other two roommates, Dylan Mortonson and Bethany Funk, had also been out that evening. By approximately 1:45 in the morning on November 13th, all four students who would not survive the night were back home. At 4 a.m., a DoorDash delivery arrived for Xana. One of the surviving roommates heard what she thought was Kaylee playing with her dog. Everything sounded exactly like a normal night winding down, but something was already terribly, irreversibly wrong, and the person responsible was already there. Here is what investigators were eventually able to reconstruct about what happened inside that house. And here is why it still haunts people who have followed this case closely, even with everything that is now known. Even with a guilty plea, even with a sentence delivered, some of what happened in those early morning hours still produces something that no factual summary quite captures. It is the kind of story that sits differently once you understand just how close everything came to not being understood at all. Investigators believe the attack took place between 4 a.m. and approximately 4:25 a.m. on November 13th, 2022. In that window, for people who had gone to bed expecting to wake up were taken from the world. Dylan Mortonson's bedroom was on the second floor. According to court documents and her own account given to law enforcement, she heard noises in the house that night and opened her bedroom door. She heard sounds coming from Xana Kernadle's room that didn't make sense. She heard what she later described as crying. And then she heard something that would stay with her far beyond that night. A male voice saying words to the effect of, "It's okay. I'm going to help you." She opened her door again, and that is when she saw him. A man, dressed entirely in black, wearing a mask, tall and athletic, with what she would later describe as bushy eyebrows. Dylan Mortonson stood completely frozen, locked in place by a fear so total that her body would not respond. She watched him walk past her, move toward the sliding glass door at the back of the house, and disappear through it. Then she locked herself in her room. Between 4:22 and 4:24 in the morning, 2 minutes, Dylan Mortonson and Bethany Funk exchanged 17 text messages. "I'm not kidding. I am so freaked out," Dylan texted. Bethany responded, "Come to my room. Run. Down here." Dylan made her way downstairs, and the two of them stayed together, texting their roommates, getting no answers, trying to hold onto the hope that there was still an explanation. 8 hours passed. Both young women continued using their phones, texting friends and family, trying to reach their roommates. At some point around midday, one of them called a friend and said something was not right in the house. He arrived. He went upstairs. He understood immediately. What happened next has become one of the most discussed pieces of audio in this entire case. In the voices on this call, you can hear everything that was still unknown in that moment. The confusion, the fear, the hope that there might still be an explanation. Listen to how they describe what they have found, because the way they say it tells you everything about where these two young women were mentally and emotionally in that moment.
Number 13, 2022. 911 location of your emergency.
Something is happening. Something happened in our house. We don't know what.
What is the address of the emergency?
1122.
What is the rest of the address?
Oh, Kings Road.
Okay. And is that a house or an apartment?
It's a house.
Can you repeat the address to make sure that I have it right?
I'll talk to you guys. We live at the light, so we're next to them.
I need someone to repeat the address for verification.
The address, 1122 King Road.
And what's the phone number that you're calling from?
What's your phone number?
And tell me exactly what's going on.
One of the roommates has passed out, and she was drunk last night, and she's not waking up. Oh, and they saw some man in their house last night. Yeah. Hi, this is...
And are you with the patient? Okay, I need someone to keep the phone, stop passing it around.
Can I just tell you what happened pretty much?
What is going on currently? Is someone passed out right now?
I don't really know, but pretty much at 4 a.m.
Okay, I need to know what's going on right now if someone is passed out. Can you find that out?
Yeah, I'll come. Come on, but we gotta go check. No, we have to. Is he passed out? What's wrong? She's not waking up.
Okay, one moment. I'm getting help started that way.
Okay, thank you. What's wrong?
Okay, and how old is she?
She's 20.
20, you said?
Yes, 20 years old.
Okay.
Hello? Hello?
Okay, I need someone to stop passing the phone around because I've talked to 4 different people.
Hey, sorry, they just gave me the phone.
Is she breathing?
Hello?
Is she breathing?
No.
Okay.
Please, talk to them, okay? I can't talk to them. I need you to talk to them.
Hello.
Okay. I've already sent the ambulance and law enforcement. Stay on the line. If there is a defibrillator available, send someone to get it now and tell me when you have it.
Say that again? There's a police here right now.
Okay. If there's a defibrillator available, send someone to get it now and tell me when you have it.
We don't have one. Do you have a defibrillator? Yes, we have one.
Are you talking to the officer?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to let you go since he's there with you and can help you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Okay.
11:59 a.m.
At 11:55 in the morning, nearly 8 hours after Dylan Mortonson had watched a masked man walk out of her home, Bethany Funk called 911. "Something has happened in our house," she said, "and we don't know what." They told the dispatcher that one of their roommates was not waking up, that she had been drinking the night before. And then, almost as an afterthought, "Oh, and they saw some man in their house last night." Police arrived at 1122 King Road. Xana Kernadle and Ethan Chapin were found on the second floor. Madison Mogan and Kaylee Goncalves were found on the third floor, in a single bed in Madison's room. All 4 had been stabbed to death. The coroner noted that significant force had been used. Xana had more than 50 stab wounds, many defensive. Kaylee had more than 20 stab wounds, along with injuries consistent with a struggle. Goncalves' dog was found unharmed on the third floor. And there, on the bed next to Madison Mogan's body, was a single tan leather knife sheath. No one in that room understood yet what that object would become. No one could have imagined that a small piece of leather would lead investigators across an entire country through some of the most advanced forensic science ever used in a criminal case, to a name and an arrest that stunned the world. This is the moment to stop and say their names. Not as victims, not as a case, as people. Kaylee Goncalves had already earned every credit she needed to graduate. She had a job waiting in Austin. She was ready. Her father would later stand at a podium and say that the world was simply better with her in it. Madison Mogan had a smile her family said made you feel like the only person in the room. Her father, Ben, would wipe tears from his eyes in court as he recalled that his daughter had completed every requirement for her degree. She had done the work. She was ready. Ethan Chapin was a 19-year-old freshman with a twin brother and a twin sister who will spend the rest of their lives as the two where there used to be three. His mother, Stacy, stood at a candlelight vigil and said the most important message she had for anyone was this: spend time with the people you love, because time is precious and cannot be returned. Xana Kernadal was, according to her older sister Jasmine, kind and funny, everyone's best friend. That description is simple. It is also everything. These four people were fully, wonderfully alive. They deserve to be remembered that way, before any of what follows, as people who were here, who were real, and who mattered. The University of Idaho canceled classes on November 13th. A candlelight vigil was held that evening. Over 15,000 public tips poured in. National media descended on Moscow, a quiet university town that had not seen a murder since 2015, and the case quickly became something the entire country was watching. There were no obvious suspects, no clear motive, no signs of forced entry. Investigators began scouring surveillance footage from the area around 1122 King Road, and within days identified something important: a white four-door sedan appearing near the home in the early hours of November 13th. Multiple times at multiple angles. Investigators determined they were looking for a white Hyundai Elantra. A public request for information went out. Thousands of tips came in, and at the Idaho State Police Crime Lab, forensic scientists were already doing something far more precise, recovering from the button snap of the tan leather knife sheath a single, full source of male DNA. A clean profile. One person, whose name they did not yet have. Bryan Christopher Kohberger was born on November 21st, 1994, in Monroe County, Pennsylvania. He grew up in Broadheadsville, graduated from Pleasant Valley High School in 2013, and over the following years earned an associate degree in psychology, then a bachelor's, then a master's in criminal justice. In the summer of 2022, he moved to Pullman, Washington, to begin a PhD in criminology at Washington State University, which sits less than 8 miles west of Moscow, Idaho. He was 28 years old, completing his first semester and working as a teaching assistant in criminology. A fellow TA who considered him a friend told investigators Kohberger was very intelligent, but also selfish. Someone who would have others complete work meant for him, and who tried to leverage his TA position to interact with female students in ways that made people uncomfortable. The same person said Kohberger talked often about wanting a girlfriend and was interested in criminal decision-making, specifically burglary-type crimes, which happened to be his documented academic focus. In October and November of 2022, the weeks surrounding the murders, the same classmate noticed a large scratch on Kohberger's face that looked like fingernail marks and injuries to his knuckles on 2 separate occasions. Kohberger said he had been in a car accident. After the murders, the classmate noticed Kohberger had started talking more than usual, venting, as if carrying something with no place to go. Kohberger had also applied for an internship with the Pullman Police Department and written in his essay about helping rural law enforcement improve their use of technological data. He was studying crime from inside an institution built to understand it. And according to what investigators established, he was simultaneously engaged in carrying it out. Before his name meant anything. Before there was a warrant. Before any of what you now know about him was known. This is what Bryan Kohberger looked like. A routine traffic stop on a cross-country drive. His father is beside him. Notice the calm. Notice the complete ordinariness of this interaction. This footage was captured on the trip back home for the holidays. By the time his car reached Pennsylvania, investigators were already tracing a trail of evidence that ended at his front door.
I am Officer Loangus. Stops being audio and video recorded. I think you know why I stopped you. You ran the red light.
What actually happened was I was stuck in the middle of the intersection.
Yeah,
so I
was behind you the whole time. Yeah. So technically you're not supposed to enter the intersection at all for that reason, because if the light turns red, then you're stuck in the intersection, and then you run the red light. So that's the reason I stopped you. Do you have your license on you?
Yep. You just get this for you out.
You what?
I'm just going to get this out for you.
Okay.
Would you explain that to me a little bit further? So in Pennsylvania, when you're stuck in the intersection, you have to make the left. So what would the appropriate thing for me to have done?
Not
just
You're
back
not
up in
supposed
that
to
situation?
block an intersection like that in Washington, so just by you blocking the intersection, that's technically a ticketable violation, and then then you're running a red light, so it's another ticketable offense. So you're not supposed to proceed into the intersection until you can go, because a lot of people do what you just did, right? Is like you're sitting in the intersection waiting, and then turns, then you're blocking, so.
Yeah, there was a little bit of confusion with speeding because someone had stopped. I wasn't sure what they were doing, and then they put on their light to turn. So I thought that maybe they were letting me go through.
Oh.
Did you see that?
No.
Yeah, like right before I made the turn, there was someone who like made a right. They didn't have their, their signal on, so I wasn't sure if they were just waiting.
Yeah, so I would just advise just don't enter the intersection until you can go, so you don't get stuck. Let's see.
But in that situation, the best thing to do then would be back up and not.
I don't know if there's a best thing to do in that situation, because you're either going to back up into somebody, or you're going to run a red light. So, or you'll be sitting in an intersection. There's not really a great option there.
Yeah, I was just sliding into the crosswalk, so. Yeah, where I'm from Pennsylvania, we actually don't have like crosswalks.
Oh,
so even if you're kind of slightly, there's a little bit more leeway as well. Like there are a few lines. Like there's one white line and there's another one. Like there's like a certain margin from which you can actually kind of put your vehicle, place your vehicle.
Yeah. So I know laws vary state to state, but there is a law in Washington for blocking an intersection like that, proceeding through, and you don't when you're just stalling. I forget the actual verbiage. I can find it for you, but it's like stalling, blocking an intersection.
Yeah, I'm just curious about the law. I don't mean to.
Oh no, yeah, I can find it for you. Yeah. One second. That looks good on a Hyundai. I don't see Pennsylvania registration like at all. Okay, let's see. Okay, so I'm not writing a ticket or anything like that today. I understand you're from Pennsylvania, but in the future, don't proceed through the intersection. You can't get stopped for that alone unless you can clearly just clear it right away. So
then basically, I understand.
You're just supposed to wait behind the white line. Drivers do it all the time, but
it never even occurred to me that was actually something wrong. But well, except for the fact that I was blocking the crosswalk, which is I went through.
And states vary a lot from laws. Like Pennsylvania might not even have that law, but in Washington we do.
I'm actually just from a very rural area, so we just don't have crosswalks.
Oh.
Unless I visit an area where there are crosswalks, and then it's not very frequent.
Yeah.
I do apologize if I was asking you too many questions about the law. I wasn't trying to
No, not at all. Like I understand you're not from here, so if you don't, a lot of people don't know a bunch of laws. Like I only know it because this is what I do, but yeah. If you're ever curious on any more laws, just RCW, and they can be hard to read because it's in like legal language, but hope that helps.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Hello. How y'all doing? Good. Take your driver's license real quick if I could. See, he's right up on the van, man. He's right up on the back of that van. You're over for tailgating. Is this your car? Okay. Cool. Where you headed?
Well, we're coming from WSU, and we're standing.
What's WSU?
University, basically. That is SWAT team area.
So I'm having a hard time reading because of the traffic. So you're coming from Washington State University, and you're going there?
We're going to be going to Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
We're finally let you drive hours.
Hours, days.
Right.
Okay.
A regular man on a regular road trip, saying the right things to a police officer who had no reason to suspect a thing. His father sat beside him, unaware of everything. That footage looks different now. It looks different because you know what he had allegedly done 6 weeks before, just miles from where that drive had started. Kohberger's father was not a suspect in this case. He was not complicit. He was simply a parent on a road trip home for the holidays with his son, with no knowledge of what had allegedly happened in Moscow, Idaho, 6 weeks before their drive, and no idea that his own trash, placed at the curb for collection, was about to become critical evidence in a national murder investigation. After identifying Kohberger as a potential suspect through the Elantra and cell phone records, investigators worked with Pennsylvania State Police and the FBI to conduct what is known as a trash pull, collecting garbage from outside the Kohberger family home in Albrightsville under cover of night. Inside, they found a Q-tip. The DNA on that Q-tip was tested against a knife sheath profile. The statistical result was overwhelming. At least 99.9998% of the male population could be excluded as the biological father of the person whose DNA was on that sheath. They had found the right family. Now, they needed to confirm the right man. On December 30th, 2022, 47 days after the murders, Pennsylvania State Police and the FBI raided the Kohberger family home. They found Bryan Kohberger in the kitchen, in a shirt and shorts, wearing examination gloves, separating trash into Ziploc bags. He was taken into custody without incident. Police seized a black WSU sweatshirt, black shorts, a silver flashlight, size 13 Nike sneakers, and 4 medical-style gloves. A buccal swab was taken directly from Kohberger and tested against the crime scene DNA. The match was confirmed. The case had its suspect. The families had a name. Let's walk through the forensic architecture of this case clearly, because it is genuinely remarkable and deserves to be fully understood. Surveillance cameras near 1122 King Road captured a white Hyundai Elantra circling the area in the early morning hours of November 13th. At around 2:53 a.m., a vehicle matching the description appeared on camera near the WSU campus heading toward Moscow. At approximately 5:27 a.m., the same type of vehicle appeared in Pullman heading back north. Cell phone record for Kohberger showed his device last pinged a tower near Pullman at 2:47 a.m., consistent with someone departing toward Moscow. Then his phone went dark. It did not connect to any tower for approximately 2 hours. It reappeared at 4:48 a.m., pinging south of Moscow, then west into Washington, then north toward Pullman, a path aligned almost exactly with the surveillance footage. Investigators described that 2-hour silence as consistent with a deliberate effort to conceal a location during a criminal act. On November 29th, a WSU campus officer found a white 2015 Hyundai Elantra with Pennsylvania plates registered to a PhD student named Bryan Kohberger. Cell records confirmed his device had been near 1122 King Road at least 12 times before the murders. Prosecutors would later establish the total at 23 times between July 9th and November 13th, 2022. Investigators pulled Kohberger's Amazon purchase history and found that he had bought a K-bar knife with a sheath and a sharpening tool. The sheath found at the crime scene was consistent with a K-bar sheath. The murder weapon itself has never been publicly confirmed as recovered, one of the enduring open questions of this case. And then came the genetic genealogy. The FBI, working with a private lab called Othram, used investigative genetic genealogy, comparing the crime scene DNA against public ancestry databases to trace a lineage to a multi-generational Pennsylvania family with Italian heritage, narrowed through a very specific genealogical pattern. By December 19th, 2022, the FBI had sent Moscow police a name. 11 days later, Bryan Kohberger was in handcuffs. And here is the question that stops everything. The question that no forensic technique, no guilty plea, no sentence has ever answered. Why? Investigators confirmed Kohberger's phone near that house 23 times before the murders. They confirmed his DNA on the knife sheath. They heard him say yes, once per victim, in open court. And they also confirmed, plainly, at his sentencing, we have never to this date found a single connection between him and any of the 4 victims or the 2 survivors. Not a text, not a call, not a shared contact. Nothing. No one knows what drew him to that house, to those people on that night. And the one person who knows has chosen to keep that answer entirely to himself. On January 5th, 2023, Bryan Kohberger made his first court appearance in Idaho, extradited from Pennsylvania 4 days earlier. The nation was watching. For the first time, the person at the center of this case was not a name on a warrant or a face in a photo. He was standing in a courtroom, charges being formally read, and every set of eyes in that room was looking for something, some sign of what was inside him. This is the moment many describe as the point where this case stopped feeling abstract. Up until now, this had been documents, affidavits, surveillance clips. Standing in a courtroom, hearing charges read, watching the stillness, that is something else entirely. Pay attention to what he does, and, equally, to what he doesn't do.
Oh, we got them. We took care of it. Yep. You guys.
$50,000 fine or both. Do you understand?
Yes.
Count 2 alleges that you committed the felony offense of murder in the first degree. It alleges that the defendant, Bryan C. Kohberger, on or about November 13th, 2022, in Latah County, state of Idaho, did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation, and with malice aforethought, kill and murder Madison Mogen, a human being, by stabbing Madison Mogen, from which she died, in violation of Idaho Code 18-4001, 4002, 4003, and 4004. The maximum penalty for this offense, if you were to plead guilty or be found guilty, is death or imprisonment for life.
He nodded to the judge. He said yes when asked if he understood the charges. A not guilty plea was entered on his behalf because he chose not to enter one himself. He was held without bail. A no-contact order was issued. A gag order followed. And the legal process began, one that would stretch nearly 3 years, involve some of the most complex pretrial litigation in Idaho's modern legal history, and ultimately end not with the full public trial everyone had expected, but with something that felt very different. Kohberger was formally indicted on 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of felony burglary. Prosecutors initially sought the death penalty. The defense filed extensive pretrial motions, challenging the genetic genealogy technique, seeking to suppress the DNA evidence, attempting to limit witness testimony, including Dylan Mortonson's account of the bushy-eyebrowed man she saw in the house. Nearly every significant motion failed. The DNA, the 911 call, the surviving roommate's testimony, all ruled admissible. A change of venue moved the case from Moscow to Boise, but the trial remained on track until the summer of 2025, when everything changed. In the months before what was expected to be one of the most watched trials in recent American history, the case moved through a series of procedural hearings. This is one of them. What appears on the surface to be a routine appearance was, in hindsight, part of a larger shift happening behind closed doors. One that would bring this case to an ending almost no one outside the courtroom had anticipated.
Mr. Kohberger is in custody. He is appearing here in court with his attorneys, Ms. Taylor, Mr. Logsdon, Mr. Thompson, Ms. Jennings appearing on behalf of the state. This is the time set in the matter for the preliminary hearing status conference. So I am going to inquire. And Mr. Thompson, are you in agreement with that?
The state has no objection to that, Your Honor. Ms. Taylor reached out to us by email yesterday with her proposal. On reflection, the state's calendar would be better in the month of July, but we will make the end of June work if that's the court's preference. And I haven't had a chance to talk to Ms. Taylor about that. I'm sorry, I know that's last minute.
That's okay. The court's calendar is going to be better towards the end of June, early July. So would that work, Ms. Taylor, for your scheduling on your other matters?
Your Honor, yes. If we take that 4th week in June, that's actually best.
Okay. So, Mr. Kohberger, I need to speak to you for a moment then. Sir, you do understand and had enough time to speak with Ms. Taylor about your decision to waive your right to a speedy preliminary hearing?
Yes.
Do you need any additional time to do so?
No.
Then I will ask at this time, as to the 5 counts, felony counts that were charged in the criminal complaint that was filed on December 29th of 2022. Beginning Monday, June 26th at 9:00 a.m. And I will go ahead and reserve the week, so June 26th to June 30th, in the event that we need all 5 days for presentation of evidence. And just so council knows, it will begin at 9 a.m. each of those days. Is there anything further to address at this time in the case, Mr. Thompson?
Not from the state's perspective, Your Honor, no.
All right. Or Ms. Taylor?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Kohberger, then you will be remanded into custody on your same no bail at this point in time, pending further proceedings. Again, we'll send notice out to council, and we will be in recess for this morning.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Before the sentencing, before the room filled with the voices that have been building for nearly 3 years. We had to talk about what surviving that night actually cost the two people who were inside that house. Because Bethany Funk and Dylan Mortonson did not walk away from 1122 King Road and return to their lives. Nobody does. The question is never whether something like that changes you. The question is what shape the change takes. And what came out of Kohberger's sentencing on July 23rd, 2025, gave the world an answer it had not prepared for. Dylan Mortonson was barely 19 years old when she stood frozen in a hallway and watched a masked man walk past her. She had done nothing wrong. She had simply been in her own home. And the weight of what she had seen and only partially understood in that moment would follow her through every day of the years that came after. She had not spoken publicly about any of it until the day of the sentencing. For nearly 3 years, she carried it in near silence while a legal process unfolded around her. And the world waited. Investigators needed to understand every detail of that last ordinary day and what happened in the hours that followed. This interrogation footage, taken just days after the murders, is one of the earliest windows into what life inside that house looked like, and what those first terrible hours of not understanding felt like from the inside.
She just knocked on my door, I think, during the night. I had breakfast and
Okay. Then what happened after that?
I just went to bed. And then I woke up and I was like half asleep and I just thought I saw like a firework or something. Like it just sparkled like under my door. And then I thought I heard like something kind of fall. And then Murphy barked, but I thought people were just making like food, like if Ethan was here or something and knocked something over because he's usually loud in the kitchen those things.
Okay. So what do you mean by you heard a firework?
It sounded like a little firework and then there was like a spark. I went by my like I'm on the bottom floor.
Okay.
So it kind of looked like it came down there, but I don't know.
So is Murphy your dog?
Kaylee's dog.
Kaylee's dog?
Kaylee and her ex-boyfriend's dog.
Okay. So you heard Murphy bark right after you heard what you thought was a firecracker?
But yeah, something like that. Like, you know, I don't know, dogs bark at random things. And sometimes when he's happy, he'll bark.
Okay. It didn't sound like an angry growl or anything like that, just a bark?
I don't really know. I was like half asleep.
Okay.
It just sounded like bark.
So, hear the firework, kind of see a spark underneath the door. Murphy barks. What did you hear after that?
Pretty much nothing. That's it.
Okay. And you thought maybe someone was just in the kitchen at that point?
Yeah, just like someone accidentally fell into the table or something.
Okay.
And she was like, this would be...
Do you know about what time that might have been? Do you have any idea?
4 or something. I tried to call all of them at like 4:20ish. Around that time, and no one was answering. I thought they just went to bed or something.
Okay. What happened after that?
Called me, and she said she thinks she saw someone. And I didn't know, like, really what to think of it, because sometimes we think we hear things a lot in the house, but it's usually just Ethan walking around. But she came, I told her to come in my room, and she could sleep with me, and we could lock the door, and just stay in there just in case if there was anything, and that's all I know. And I fell back asleep.
You didn't hear anything else? Okay. No one else talking? Okay. Did you make it to your room then? Okay. What time do you think she got in your room?
4:20, 4:30.
Okay, about the same time.
Yeah.
Where's her room located to yours?
I'm the only one on the bottom floor, right by the front door.
Okay.
And then you go up the stairs, and Santa's room, and this room, the kitchen, and then upstairs is Matt and King's.
Okay. And where's Georgia?
Right by the kitchen.
Right by the kitchen. Okay. And did she say anything to you when she got into the room?
She said she thought she saw me in, but I didn't know what to think of it. I was like, still half asleep, and I was like, I didn't know what to, I don't know. It didn't sound like I didn't hear screams, I didn't hear anything, so I didn't really know.
Okay. But obviously she didn't say anything more than she just saw someone.
No, that's all I remember.
In her interview with Moscow police just 3 days after the murders, Bethany Funk described what November 12th had looked like. Taco Bell, naps, getting ready to go out. The comfortable, repeating rhythm of a Saturday that none of them had any reason to believe would be different from every other Saturday before it. At the sentencing hearing, she chose to have her impact statement read by a friend rather than delivered herself. That decision is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of what carrying something like this actually costs, and how deeply it changes the way you move through the world. This is what Bethany Funk needed the court to hear, delivered by a friend, because some things are too heavy to carry to a podium alone. Listen to what she chose to say, and listen to what is underneath it.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll be speaking on behalf of Bethany, and so, yeah, here it reads. My name is Bethany Funk, and I was roommates with Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan. I not only lost some of my best friends, but I also lost a sister. Never in a million years would I have thought that something like this would have happened to my closest friends. I thought that we were going to wake up and go upstairs, see them and tell them how they had scared us, and that they were going to tease us about how we are constantly scaredy cats, and make jokes about it as we would go to Taco Bell like always. But sadly, that is not what happened and what turned out to be my worst nightmare. When I first woke up that morning, I had no idea what happened. I woke up around 7 with a terrible toothache, so I called my dad, who is a dentist, and he asked what I should do. He told me to take Advil, so I did, and I went back to sleep. I was still out of it and still didn't know what happened. If I had known, I of course would have called 911 right away. I still carry so much regret and guilt for not knowing what had happened and not calling right away, even though I understand it wouldn't have changed anything, not even if the paramedics had been right outside the door. I was so frantic that morning and scared to death, not knowing what had happened. And when I made the 911 call, I couldn't even get out the words. And from then on, I don't remember a thing. It was like my brain wiped that whole memory. That was the worst day of my life. And I know it always will be. While I was still in shock, trying to process the fact that my friends were truly gone, I had been attacked by the public. I was grieving, numb, and unsure what had happened was even real. And at the same time, I was getting flooded with death threats and hateful messages from people who did not know me at all or know the dynamic of our friendship. Social media made it so much worse, and strangers made up stories to entertain themselves. The media harassed not just me, but also my family. People showed up at our house. They called my phone, my parents' phones, other family members' phones, and we were chased while I was still trying to survive emotionally and grieve the loss of my friends. I hated and still hate that they are gone, but for some reason, I am still here and I got to live. I still think about this every day. Why me? Why did I get to live and not them? For the longest time, I could not even look at their families without feeling sick with guilt. I did not know what to say or what to do. I was terrified that my presence just made their pain worse. And I was still here when their kid, their siblings and their friends, their loved ones should have been here instead. After everything happened, I was afraid to go into my own backyard or alone in my house. I was scared that the person who did this would come for me next. I was always scared that the media would try to catch me at any moment of any day, even when I was just walking around my house. I made my parents close all the blinds during the day so no one could see me even in the slightest chance. I barely left the house, and when I did, I made sure I was never alone. I slept in my parents' room for almost a year. I made them double lock every door, set an alarm, and still check everywhere in the room just in case someone was hiding. And I still check my room every night before, and I double lock it. I have not slept through a single night since this happened. I constantly wake up in panics, terrified. Someone is breaking in, or someone is here to hurt me, or I'm about to lose someone else that I love. The fear never really leaves. For a long time, I could barely get out of bed, but one day I realized I have to live for them. They did not get the chance to keep living, but I do, and I will not take that for granted. So now every day I remind myself to live for them, and everything I do it with them in mind. I am still scared to go out in public, but I force myself to do things because I know that they would want me to keep living my life to the fullest. I am beyond blessed to still be here, and I refuse to take that for granted when they did not get a chance. Our house was not just a house, it was a home. It was where we laughed till we couldn't breathe, make meals, did crafts, binge watch reality shows, played games, and spent lazy days on the couch. It was movie nights, wine nights, morning debriefs, pranks, hot chocolate, cookies, and warmth. I will cherish those memories forever, and I will not let what happened erase how special our home was or how much those memories meant to me.
On July 23rd, 2025, in the Ada County Courthouse in Boise, Idaho, Bryan Kohberger was brought in for sentencing. 30 years old, orange prison jumpsuit, seated at the defense table exactly as he had sat in every prior hearing. Still composed, giving nothing away. And one by one, the people most devastated by what he had done rose to speak. The hearing lasted more than 2.5 hours. More than a dozen family members and loved ones of the 4 victims delivered statements. Each one different. Each one carrying its own particular, irreducible weight. Scott Laramie, Madison's stepfather, remembered a young woman who always brought joy to the people around her, who prioritized her family, who made the world better simply by being in it. Ben Mogan, Madison's father, spoke of his daughter already having earned every credit she needed for her degree. He spoke through tears. He did not look away. A father standing at a podium. The kind of moment that redefines what a courtroom can hold. What he chooses to say, and how he says it, captures something about love and loss that no legal record could contain on its own.
Now it's Ben Mogan, Maddie Mogan's father.
I'm Benjamin Mogan. I'm Maddie's dad. And first I just want to say thanks to all the people that helped bring this all to a close. I know it's not the resolution that everyone wanted, but I think that that everyone worked so hard, and we really appreciate all their efforts. It was such a hard thing to go through for everybody. Maddie was my only child that I ever had. She's the only great thing I ever really did, and the only thing I was really ever proud of. And I thought we would have the rest of our lives together to be together and to know each other, and I took for granted the times, she was in college, and I thought, oh, well, we'll have the rest of our lives to do all the stuff that we're supposed to do, and she was just about done. She actually earned all of her credits for her college degree, and Karen and Scotty and I got to go and get her diploma that she actually earned, and she deserved every bit of that. And but I thought that was going to be just the beginning of a long life together, and we never got that. Karen and Scotty did such a great job raising her after Karen and I split up, and I'm so thankful for Scotty and the role that he played in her life when I wasn't able to. But we got to spend a lot of great times together, Maddie and I. She was my favorite person to go to a concert with. We got to see some fun shows together, and I told her, if there's ever a show that you want to go to, let me know, and I'll get you tickets for you and your friend, or if we want to go together, we'll make it happen. And my favorite memory with her was when the Mac Miller show sold out here in Spokane, and everyone wanted tickets, no one could get them, and on the last day before the show, they did a radio thing, and I got 4 meet and greet tickets for Maddie and her friends, and me to go and see the show, and that was her favorite artist at the time, was Mac Miller, and he's gone now too, and my little cousin Zach drove us all there that night, and he's gone too, tragically, and anyway, the last thing that she ever wrote to me was this Father's Day card, and I'm so glad I still have it. I'm just going to read what she said. It says, "Happy Father's Day. I hope you have the best day. I can't wait till we can hang out again soon. I'll be in Coeur d'Alene 624 to 74. Hopefully we can find a time then. I love your birthday card that you sent me, by the way. Maybe we can see a concert sometime soon. I'd love to see the gorge when it's not so smoky out. I hope you're doing well. I'm proud of how far you've come. Thank you for always encouraging me to do my best. Love you lots and lots. Love, Maddie May." She did encourage me to not just to do my best, but to live on. I went through a lot of issues with addiction and with substance abuse, and when I wasn't wanting to live anymore, she was what would keep me from just not caring anymore, and knowing that she was out there and that she was just such a beautiful person kept me alive a lot of rough moments, and I'm so glad that she was able to meet Jake. He was the only one that I actually ever got to take her to the gorge. They went and saw Watershed together, and they had a heck of a time. I'm glad she got to. That's a really special place for me, and she always wanted to work out there with me in the summer sometime. She never got to, but at least she got to see it once with Jake. He was such a great guy. He is such a great guy. And I really wanted to see what a future with them would have looked like. I'll never be able to replace her. I wrote a bunch of stuff. I just don't know what to say right now. I just miss her so much, and I just love her more than anything. And this shouldn't have happened. And a death sentence is one thing. When it's going to happen, and it's going to be all gentle and stuff. But life without parole, with a building full of people that all just want you to not be around anymore, and winking at every morning, not knowing if that's the day they're going to pull your card. I mean, it's not a very nice sentence either. So, I don't know. I just love you, Maddie, and I wish you were still here.
Then Steve Goncalves, Kaylee's father, turned the podium and addressed Kohberger directly. And for the first time during the hearing, Kohberger made eye contact. He held it, showing nothing, as Steve Goncalves told him, "Today we are here to finish what you started." He said the families had taken this devastating situation and kept the focus where it belonged, on Kaylee Jade, Maddie May, Xana, and Ethan. He said Kohberger was a complete joke. Then he stepped back, and his daughter stepped forward. Kaylee's older sister Olivia had been close to both Kaylee and Madison. She had waited nearly 3 years for this moment. And when she finally had the floor, when she finally had the chance to say directly to the man responsible everything she had been holding, she said it. The courtroom responded in a way that said everything.
Hello, I'd like to start by thanking the court for allowing me the time and opportunity to speak today. My name is Olivia, and I'm the big sister of Kaylee Goncalves, and I was blessed to love Madison Mogen as a sister too. I'm not here today to speak in grief, I'm here to speak in truth. Because the truth is, my sister Kaylee and her best friend Maddie were not yours to take. They were not yours to study, to stalk, or to silence. They were two pieces of a whole, the perfect yin and yang. They are everything that you could never be. Loved, accepted, vibrant, accomplished, brave, and powerful. Because the truth about Kaylee and Maddie is they would have been kind to you. If you had approached them in their everyday lives, they would have given you directions, thanked you for the compliment, or awkwardly giggled to make your own words less uncomfortable for you. In a world that rejected you, they would have shown mercy. Because the truth is, I'm angry. Every day I'm angry. I'm left shouting at the inside of my own head everything I wish I could say to you. The truth about me is when I heard the news, I didn't cry. I listened for them. I promised them I would. That I would fight for them. That I would show up no matter what it cost me. I swore I'd never let them feel alone. Because you see, I've always been their heavyweight. I've always been the one to fight the battles they didn't feel ready to fight themselves. All it ever took was a call, and they knew I would handle it for them, no matter the time, no matter the cost. They could wave their white flag because they knew I would never back down, not for them. And not even death could change that. Somewhere along the line, I started to think about what I would say to them if I was given just one last chance. If I could gather enough heartbreak or love or sacrifice or whatever it took to get just one message across. What would I say? Throughout this entire process, I've written my feelings down at every moment. My wishes, my love, my denial, my anger. And as one final act of love, I'd planned to read these thoughts, even jarring and discombobulating and not even making sense. Because for me, that was true love. As bare and as naked as it could be, not laced in pretty words or dressed for the occasion, but written through bleary eyes at 2 a.m. with clenched fists, angry at this reality. My true final act of love was to continue on without them, for them. That dream to read aloud my love to them, to bring meaning through pain, was the latest blow in realizing you don't deserve it. And Kaylee and Maddie don't need it. Haley and Maddie have always known my love, and they would never ask me to prove it by further victimizing myself to a defendant who has shown no guilt, no remorse, no apprehension. They would say to me, "Why would you give the satisfaction of showing vulnerability now? You promised you would never back down." And for that clarity, I'm thankful. I won't stand here and give you what you want. I won't offer you tears. I won't offer you trembling. Disappointments like you thrive on pain, on fear, and on the illusion of power. And I won't feed your beast. Instead, I will call you what you are. Sociopath, psychopath, murderer. I will ask the questions that reverberate violently in my own head, so loudly that I can't think straight most any day. Some of these might be familiar, so sit up straight when I talk to you. How was your life right before you murdered my sisters? Did you prepare for the crime before leaving your apartment? Please detail what you were thinking and feeling at this time. Why did you choose my sisters? Before making your move, did you approach my sisters? Detail what you were thinking and feeling. Before leaving their home, is there anything else you did? How does it feel to know the only thing you failed more miserably at than being a murderer is trying to be a rapper? Did you recently start shaving or manually pulling out your eyebrows? Why November 13th? Did you truly think your Amazon purchase was untraceable because you used a gift card? How do you find it enjoyable to stargaze with such a severe case of visual snow? Where is the murder weapon? The clothes you wore that night? What did you bring into the house with you? What was the second weapon you used on Kaylee? What were Kaylee's last words? Please describe in detail the level of anxiety you must have felt when you heard the Bearcat pull up to your family home on December 30th, 2022. Which do you regret more? Returning to the crime.
Olivia Goncalves stood and looked directly at Bryan Kohberger. She said, "No one is scared of you today. No one is impressed by you. No one thinks you're important." The room broke into applause. She continued and concluded with something that became one of the most remembered lines of the entire hearing. She said that if Kaylee had been awake, if she had seen him coming, and the courtroom understood her completely, every word of it, and then something happened that almost no one had fully anticipated. The person who had been inside that house on the night of the murders, who had stood frozen in a hallway and watched a masked man walk past her, finally walked to a podium. And for the first time in nearly 3 years, she spoke publicly. The room went very quiet, because when Dylan Mortonson began to speak, there was not a single person present who was anywhere else. Nearly 3 years of silence. Nearly 3 years of carrying what she saw, what she survived, and what it has cost her without ever saying any of it in public. This is Dylan Mortonson at Kohberger's sentencing, finding her voice for the first time. What she describes is unlike any other moment in this entire case.
Next is Dylan Mortonson. We're asking for some accommodations for Ms. Mortonson and that she be allowed to sit in my seat.
Sure. Dylan, just take your time, all right?
Sorry.
you, Your Honor. What happened that night changed everything. Because of him, 4 beautiful, genuine, compassionate people were taken from this world for no reason. He didn't just take their lives. He took the light they carried it into every room. He took away how they made everyone feel safe, loved, and full of joy. He took away the ability for me to tell them that I love them and that I'm so proud of them. He took away who they were becoming and the futures they were going to have. He took away birthdays, graduations, celebrations, and all the memories that we were supposed to make. All of it is gone. And all the people who loved them are just left to carry that weight forever. He didn't just take them from the world. He took them from me, my friends, my people who felt like my home, the people I looked up to and adored more than anyone. He took away my ability to trust the world around me. What he did shattered me in places I didn't know could break. I was barely 19 when he did this. We had just celebrated my birthday at the end of September. I should have been figuring out who I was. I should have been having the college experience and starting to establish my future. Instead, I was forced to learn how to survive the unimaginable. I couldn't be alone. I had to sleep in my mom's bed because I was too terrified to close my eyes. Terrified that if I blinked, someone might be there. I made escape plans everywhere I went. If something happens, how do I get out? What can I use to defend myself? Who can help? And then there are the panic attacks. The kind that slam into me like a tsunami out of nowhere. I can't breathe. I can't think. I can't stop shaking. All I can do is scream because the emotional pain and the grief is too much to handle. My chest feels like it's caving in. Sometimes I drop to the floor with my heart racing, convinced something is very wrong. It's far beyond anxiety. It's my body reliving everything over and over again. My nervous system never got the message that it is over, and it won't let me forget what he did to them. People call me strong. They say I'm a survivor, but they don't see what my new reality looks like. They don't see the panic attacks, the hypervigilance, the exhaustion, the way I scan every room I enter, the way I flinch at sudden sounds. They don't know how heavy it is to carry so much pain and still be expected to keep going, and that's because of him. He stole parts of me I may never get back. He took the version of me who didn't constantly ask, what if it happens again? What if next time I don't survive? He may have shattered parts of me, but I'm still putting myself back together. Piece by piece, I'm learning how to live in this new version of life. It is not easy. It hurts, but I'm still trying. Still trying, and I'm not trying just for me. I'm trying for them, my friends. About a year ago, I had a dream about them. I got to say goodbye. I told them I won't be able to see you again, so I need to tell you goodbye. They all kept asking why, and all I could say was, I can't tell you, but I have to. When I woke up, I felt shattered and heartbroken. but also strangely grateful. Like maybe in some way that dream gave us the goodbye we never got. Still, no dream can replace them, and no goodbye will ever feel finished. He is a hollow vessel, something less than human. A body without empathy, without remorse. He chose destruction. He chose evil. He feels nothing. He tried to take everything from me. My friends, my safety, my identity, my future. He took their lives, but I will continue trying to be like them, to make them proud. Living is how I honor them. Speaking today is to help me find some sort of justice for them. And I will never let him take that from me. He may have taken so much from me, but he will never get to take my voice. He will never take the memories I had with them. He will never erase the love we shared, the laughs we had, or the way they made me feel seen and whole. Those things are mine. They are sacred, and he will never touch them. I get to feel sadness. I get to feel rage. I get to feel joy even when it's hard. I get to feel love even when it hurts. I get to live. And while I will still live with this pain, at least I get to live my life. He will stay here, empty, forgotten, and powerless.
Dylan, thank you so much for your courage.
Dylan Mortonson wept as she spoke. She described panic attacks that came without warning, like a tsunami, she said, slamming into her out of nowhere, making it impossible to breathe, impossible to think, impossible to stop shaking. She described having to sleep in her mother's bed because she was too frightened to close her eyes alone. She described making escape plans every single time she walked into a new space, automatically calculating exits, objects, options, people, running through the sequence every time. Because her body had learned on one night at 19 years old that it had to. She said, "He took away my ability to trust the world around me. What he did shattered me in places I didn't know could break. I was barely 19 when he did this. 19, standing in a hallway. And then 3 years of living inside the aftermath of something she never chose, never caused, and cannot leave behind." She received a hug from a law enforcement officer as she stepped away. The room stayed quiet. Some things don't need a response. They just need to be heard. Other family members continued. Jasmine Kernadle spoke about her sister Xana, kind, funny, everyone's best friend. Jeff Kernadle, Xana's father, said he'd been just 7 miles from the house the night of the murders and had wanted to drive over, but hadn't. He said that will stay with him forever. Then Xana's aunt, Kim Kernadle, said something no one expected. She told Kohberger she had forgiven him, that she could no longer carry the weight of hatred, that if he ever wanted to truly talk, she would be there. No judgment. It was one of the most unexpectedly layered moments in a hearing already full of them. Because forgiveness, in this context, is not softness. It is its own kind of survival. After everyone had spoken, after more than 2.5 hours of voices, of grief and love and fury and forgiveness and pain, it was Bryan Kohberger's turn. He had the right to speak. He had the opportunity. The judge asked. The families waited. And Kohberger stood, looked at the judge, and said, respectfully, that he declined. That was all. 3 years. A guilty plea to 4 murders. And not one word of explanation to the families sitting just feet away from him, who have asked the same question every single day since November 13th, 2022. The judge stated before delivering the sentence that even if truthful insight into Kohberger's thinking could somehow be obtained, there was no reason he could offer that would approach anything resembling rationality. He said it was time to end what he called Kohberger's 15 minutes of fame, time to consign him, in his words, to the ignominy and isolation of perpetual incarceration. And then he sentenced him. This is the formal close of the legal chapter of a case that began on a November night in 2022. For consecutive life sentences. One for each victim whose name should never have been read in a courtroom. Watch what Bryan Kohberger does in this moment. Watch what he doesn't do, and then sit with whatever that makes you feel, because it is not nothing.
All right, does the defense have evidence to present today?
No evidence.
All right. Does the defense wish to make argument today?
Runner, we do not wish to make arguments. Mr. Kohberger, along with his legal team, is prepared for the court to enter judgment.
All right, Mr. Kohberger, you have an opportunity to make a statement if you wish to. I take it you are declining.
I respectfully decline.
Well, please. All right, let me start this morning by acknowledging and thanking those that have come here today in support of their loved ones. And I appreciate your courage and your strength. And I hope that you are able to move on as best as possible. Thank counsel for the professionalism that they've exhibited throughout this case. It has been my great honor to preside in this case and to help bring, to the extent possible, some resolution and hopefully justice to this case. During the quiet morning hours of November 13, 2022, a faceless coward breached the tranquility of 6 beautiful young people and senselessly slaughtered them, 4 of them. Who committed this unspeakable evil was unknown for several weeks, but due to the killer's incompetence and outstanding police work by numerous local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies, the person that slithered through that sliding glass door at 1122 King Road now stands before the world and this court unmasked. This unfathomable and senseless act of evil has caused immeasurable pain and loss. No parent should ever have to bury their child. This is the greatest tragedy that can be inflicted upon a person. Parents who took their children to college in a truck filled with moving boxes had to bring them home in hearses lined with coffins. The loss this killer inflicted was not just the death of these people's children, siblings, grandchildren, as we've heard today. It has ripped a hole in their soul, destroying a special part of their very essence. Any person who is a parent defines themselves foremost as such. It is their existence and purpose of being. And it has been stolen from these parents. None of us have experienced the loss these victims have in the unspeakable way that they have. And therefore, none of us can, nor should we, question the way in which they have handled their loss. Whether that be in private mourning, removed as far as possible from this media circus, or in front of a camera demanding retribution with the loudest megaphone. I've listened intently to the stories and pain that have been shared today, with great awe at the courage and resilience of the surviving family members of those wonderful children. I've listened also to the surviving roommates, both in person and through their friends. And I can't think of how, frankly, courageous they have been despite the hell that they have faced by uncaring people who have come up with all kinds of crazy theories about 2 kids simply being kids. The parents, siblings, and other family members who have spoken today are designated as victims in our legal system. But going forward, I hope that they can shed that label, as it gives too much power to the evil that condemned them to that role. They are and should be known as survivors, fighters, and foremost as witnesses to the tremendous lives of value and unbounded promise of these 4 young people. But those speaking today and those who did not speak but who carry this same burden, this same loss, now carry forward the memories of these now perpetually young people, these forever children. These survivors carry the responsibility of ensuring that the voices of these children, Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan, are never forgotten, and the positive impacts that they have had on so many lives are never minimized, and that the love they shared, the light that they shined onto others is forever celebrated. As we sit here today, this case is ending, and we are now certain who committed these unspeakable acts of evil, but we don't know, and what we may never know is why. I share the desire expressed by others to understand the why, but upon reflection, it seems to me, and this is just my own opinion, that by continuing to focus on why, we continue to give Mr. Kohberger relevance. We give him agency and we give him power. The need to know what is inherently not understandable makes us dependent upon the defendant to provide us with a reason, and that gives him the spotlight, the attention, and the power he appears to crave. Yet even if I could force him to speak, which legally I cannot, how could anyone ever be assured that what he speaks is the truth? Do we really believe, after all of this, he's capable of speaking the truth or of giving up something of himself to help the very people whose lives he destroyed? Rather, I suspect the so-called reason would be dished out in enticing, self-serving, and aggrandizing, untruthful bits, leaving people wanting more information, more insight, and thus enhancing even further the power he seeks to hold. Even if we could get truthful insight into his why, I suspect it would not in any way quench one's thirst for actually understanding why in the first instance.
For consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole, 1 for each of the 4 victims. An additional 10 years for the felony burglary charge. A combined fine of $250,000 and $20,000 in restitution. He waived his right to appeal. He waived his right to ever seek a reduction in his sentence. He will spend every remaining day of his life at the Idaho Maximum Security Institution in Kuna, Idaho. He will never come home. The plea deal was not welcomed universally. Madison Mogen's family supported it, releasing a statement about choosing a path of hope and healing. Ethan Chapin's family also expressed support, but the Goncalves family was clear. Steve Goncalves did not attend when the plea was formally entered. His daughter Aubrey wrote publicly that a life sentence meant Kohberger could still speak, form relationships, and engage with a world that the 4 people he killed can no longer access. The Kernodle family said they felt failed by the decision to remove the death penalty. There is no clean ending here. No sentence restores what was taken. No verdict gives these families back the November 12th version of their lives, before they knew what the next morning would bring. And anyone who presents this outcome as full closure has not understood what these families have been carrying. Even now, after the guilty plea, the sentencing, and thousands of investigative documents beginning to surface, there are things that remain unanswered, and they deserve to be named. The murder weapon the K-bar knife investigators believe was used has never been publicly confirmed as recovered. Whether it was disposed of, destroyed, or hidden is not known. It is one of the most frequently asked questions in this case. The motive. The prosecution confirmed in open court that no personal connection between Kohberger and any of the 4 victims or either surviving roommate was ever identified. Not a text, not a call, not a shared acquaintance. His phone placed him near that house 23 times. He bought a K-bar knife. He confirmed in court that he acted willingly and with premeditation. And the reason, the internal logic, if any exists, has never been named. The selfie. In March 2025, investigators introduced a photograph Kohberger had taken of himself on the morning after the murders, in front of a shower, giving a thumbs up. Kaylee's father, Steve Goncalves, described it publicly as a trophy. He said Kohberger had apparently realized no one had yet called 911 and was documenting that he believed he had escaped consequence. The wipe devices. After the sentencing, investigators disclosed that Kohberger had used software to wipe many of his electronic devices before they could be examined. Leading digital forensics experts were brought in. Very little was recovered. What he stored, searched, or planned gone. And then there is what the former Moscow police chief said after the sentencing. New information could come out still. There are always cases where, 10 years later, somebody says something. Bryan Kohberger had multiple opportunities to explain himself. At his arraignment, during the years of legal proceedings, at his plea hearing in July 2025, where he confirmed, once per victim, that he had acted willingly and with premeditation. And at his sentencing, when the judge left space, the families were present and the opportunity was fully, undeniably there. He said nothing. The initial interview conducted after his arrest in Pennsylvania offers the clearest window into what that silence means. When investigators of the state police barracks shifted the conversation toward the murders in Moscow, Idaho, Kohberger told them he had heard about a homicide because he received an alert on his phone from Washington State University. When pressed further, he said, "Well, I think I would need a lawyer." And those were the last relevant words he ever spoke on the subject. The judge said at sentencing that even a truthful explanation from Kohberger would not satisfy, because there is no reason, no framework, no logic that makes what he did comprehensible. A criminology PhD student, a house he had driven past 2 dozen times, for people with no known connection to him, and a decision made deliberately and in advance to end their lives. The most important question in this case is the one that was never answered. And it never will be, not on record, not publicly, because the one person who holds that answer has made his choice. Whatever else he gives up in that prison cell, and he gives up everything, he has decided to keep that. In the weeks and months following the sentencing, the Moscow Police Department began releasing thousands of investigative documents that had been sealed throughout the legal process. New details have emerged, and more are expected. The former Moscow police chief said it plainly. In cases like this, people talk years later, and when they do, things shift. In January 2026, Kohberger's sister spoke publicly for the first time. She said the family had been shocked by his arrest and had no prior knowledge of any involvement in the murders. The impact of this case radiated outward in every direction, beyond the 4 killed and the 2 who survived, beyond their families, reaching the university community, the town of Moscow, and even Kohberger's own family, whose lives were also changed permanently by what one person among them did. The University of Idaho created the Vandal Healing Garden as a memorial on campus. Scholarships were established in the victims' names. Posthumous degrees were awarded at commencement in May 2023. The house at 1122 King Road was demolished in late 2023. As of late 2025, the Goncalves family was reportedly pursuing civil action against Washington State University. The criminal chapter is closed. Bryan Kohberger is in a maximum security prison in Idaho. He will remain there for the rest of his life. And the question of why, the wound at the center of everything, lives on unanswered in the space between what happened and what was never explained. For young people who went to sleep on a Saturday night and did not wake up, they left behind parents who will spend every remaining day asking why. Siblings who will carry the shape of who they were for the rest of their lives. Friends who will reach for a phone to text someone who can no longer respond. A young woman who now calculates exits automatically in every room she enters because on one night at 19 years old her body learned something it has never been able to forget. Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogan, Xana Kernadal, Ethan Chapin. Their names are not footnotes. They're not hashtags. They're the reason this story exists and the reason it matters. They were not defined by how they died. They were defined by how they lived, fully, loudly, completely themselves. And they deserve to be remembered exactly that way. Not because a court ordered it, but because they were here. Bryan Kohberger will spend the rest of his life inside a maximum security prison. The sentence has been delivered. The cell door is closed. But for the families, for the survivors, for everyone who loved those 4 people, there is no door that closes on this. There are only the voices that remain. The voices that stood in a courtroom and refused to be silent. The voices that said their names. The voices that said, "We were here, they were here," and none of this will ever be forgotten. Long after the verdict, long after the sentence, long after the cameras have moved on, the voices are what remain. That is the full story. If this moved you, if you believe these 4 lives deserve to be remembered with this kind of care, share this with someone. Leave a comment. Subscribe to Dark Trail Files right now, because every trail we follow leads somewhere. And we never stop until we've followed it all the way to the end. This is Dark Trail Files. Thank you for being here.